let me share my screen first. So are you able to see this screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we'll first see what commands we have learned in the previous session where we were discussing the rights. Uh, so I told you that we are having read, we are having write, and we are having execution permissions. And we have made this discussion related to these three permissions at the user level, at the group level, and at the others level. So it is very important to understand the implication of these rights over different regular files as well as directories. So when we say a regular file, that means all kind of files excluding directory files, because in context to directory file, the execution permission has something different. It has some different meaning. And as I discussed earlier, that when we are revoking the execution permission from any of the directory, that means we are making that directory unavailable to be used in any path. For example, I have shown you that we have created a number of directories and one of the directory was B. So right now I am in the B subdirectory of my home directory. And suppose here I am making use of chmod command. Chmod is the command using which we can either add the permissions or we can remove the permissions. So when we say we are adding the permission, that means we are granting the permission. And when we say that we are removing the permission, that means we are revoking that permission. So for example, right now if I show you what permissions we are having over different files. Let me come out of this B subdirectory first, and then we'll see what permissions we are having over different files. For example, if I am giving only question mark, sorry, it's ls minus l and then question mark. So let me tell you one more thing, that ls minus l b. So we are looking exclusively on the B subdirectory. The first alphabet is D, that indicates this B is a subdirectory. And then we are having the permissions RWX, RWX, R minus X. That means if somebody is not having permission X as a group member, then he cannot change his path to B subdirectory. He cannot come to B subdirectory even as a owner, because the first three permissions RWX, they are applicable to me because I am the owner of B, because I am currently working as a user with the user login. So I am the owner of this B subdirectory. So if I look at my permissions, I am having X permission. I am having X permission that allows me to change this B. Because of that only it is possible that I can use CD B and I can move inside B. If I'm not having X permission over B, I cannot move into B subdirectory. For example, let us see chmod command. Since I'm acting as a user, I'm the owner of that file, and when we are taking the execution permission back, we have to give minus X. That means we are taking or we are removing X permission. And over what? We are removing that from directory file. So you can see that we are removing X permission for user, and because of that only I am highlighting this U since I am removing X permission from U, and over what? Over B file. So now when I press enter, now look at the impact of this revocation. Now suppose if I am giving CDB, there is denial. I mean, I am not allowed to move inside B. Why? Because X permission has been taken back. And since X permission has been taken back by me as a owner, so obviously even it's not possible for me to move into that B subdirectory. When you give CDB, what we are specifying in B, the silent factor which is specified before B is the relative path. So when you give CDB, actually it is similar to, we have discussed earlier that it is similar to typing /home. Sorry, we have to start from so if I give CD B, it is similar to typing CD /home/user/B, because since we are making use of relative path. So when we directly start any path without giving any slash, because if you look at this previous version, which I have highlighted, that is CDB. So I am not writing before B slash. If I write before B slash, that means I have to start from the root, and then B will become subdirectory of root. But you know that B is created under the user subdirectory. So the complete path is obviously CD /home/user/B. And if we give CDB only, that means whatever current directory path is there, that will be applicable as a prefix to B. So that will be /home/user. So even if you are giving CDB, it is similar to giving CD /home/user/B. That means the path of current directory is preceded with B. So here, if I give this again, the permission is denied. Look at the opposite side. Like if I am adding the permission once again, I am writing U plus X. I am now granting permission, X permission, yeah, execution permission to user. User means to myself only. So now if I give CDB, I am allowed to move inside B. Okay, so is it okay? What is the impact of execution permission over any directory? So you need to understand only the differences between reading, writing and execution when we are comparing it in context to any file. But at the same time, you have to understand the impact of RWX over any other file except the directory file. In context to directory file, it has a different meaning, and that too applicable only to X, because the other is I mean self-explanatory when we say that we are not having reading permission over any directory file. So that indicates that we are not being in position to list the content of that directory by giving the ls command. Similarly, when we say that we are not having write over any directory, that means we are unable to make any modification in the directory, and that implies that we will not be in position to add either in any entry in the directory, or we are not in position to remove any entry from the directory, because directory can be modified only by two different ways. Either we have to create a new file inside that directory, so that will modify the content of that directory because it has added one more entry in the directory file. And when we are removing any file, so that means we are again changing the content, and we are reducing the number of entries in any directory. And it is just a reminder to you that what we are having inside the directory is nothing but the content by the name of different files and the corresponding inode numbers, where you know that inode numbers are basically the numbers of or the address of different tables where we are having the remaining information about a particular file. So if we are having 4 entries in directory, so we must be having the corresponding 4 inode numbers, and they are basically the addresses of different tables where each file's details are lying. So we'll discuss later on what do we have inside that, but I suppose now it is clear that how can we add or how can we revoke the permission. Similarly, if now I see ls minus dl, and let me come out of this B subdirectory, and then we are giving ld, and then we are looking at the content of this B. I mean details of B, not contents. So we are having here rwx, rwx, r minus x. Similarly, if I execute the command chmod and then I give g minus x, g minus x means I am revoking the x permission over this B file. So again, if you repeat the previous command, and now look at this here, in these 3 permissions which are applicable to group members, we are having only rw, but x, which was previously there in the previous entry, is now not visible over here. Instead, we are having a minus sign. That means now there is no more x permission. That implies that if any user is changing his home directory and coming to my directory, he will not be in position to move into B, because these 3 rights rwx, they are applicable to group members. So those who belong to the same group to which I belong, uh, they do not have X permission. So because of that only they are not able to use B as a in the path. So using B in the path means they are not be in position to move into B subdirectory or to any subdirectory that is lying inside the B, because inside the B you may be having another directory called shell. So obviously in order to move to shell you have to write B/shell. So that means again you are using B in the path. So you are not in position to make use of B in the path. So you cannot move any subdirectory or uh, uh, any other subdirectory which is in the inside the tree which has B as a root. So that is not possible. So now similarly, if you wish that we should add X permission to both, I mean to users, to group. Okay, so then we can in a single go we can specify chmod UG plus X. By the way, since I have not revoked the permission X from user, so already X was there. But anyways, if I repeat the previous display, here we are having X again. And if we are further modifying it and executing UG and suppose O, and then we are writing X permission. That means now if you look at the permissions of directory, okay, just a minute. I'll see the explanation of this, why it is not, I mean, acha, X permission is already there. I'm sorry. R minus X is already there. The only missing permission is W. So what we can do is we can write, we are adding, say, UG plus X, and then we are writing O plus W. So now look at the impact of this execution. Now, since you know that we have, okay, already since it was there, so I forgot to write X permission. But anyways, I mean, you know that when we are writing UG plus X, that means we are adding X permission. So let me do another operation. I mean, instead of writing X permission adding, we are removing X permission from both user and group and adding W permission. Or since W already we have added, so here too I am showing that we can revoke W permission from B. So here you see this X permission we have revoked from user. X permission has also been revoked from group members. But since we have given O minus W, that means W permission we have revoked from others. And it is worth to mention that others are those who are not member of the same group. Okay. So if you are having any confusion, you can ask me, but symbolically it is possible that we can make the additions. Even you can make absolute additions, absolute granting also. Like you can write U is equal to RW. That means you clearly wish to mention that user should have RW rights. Okay. So if we are writing, say, let us see this command chmod U is equal to, and then say we are giving only R and B subdirectory. So now you see, since we are giving only absolute combination, say when you write plus X or minus X, that means already whatever rights are there, we are simply adding one right or removing one right. But when you write U is equal to, that means you are mentioning the absolute rights, okay, for any file for the users. So since we have written chmod U is equal to R, that means now user has only read permission, because absolutely you are mentioning. See, we are not writing U plus R. U plus R means whatever is already there for user, that will remain there, but additionally you are providing reading rights. But when you write U is equal to, that means absolutely you are mentioning that Now here onwards, you should have user should have only reading rights. So when we write chmod u is equal to, so that indicates that whatever we are mentioning after u is equal to, that is the absolute right. So we can again see chmod. Then suppose we are writing u is equal to, then rwx group is equal to r and others is equal to rx, and the directory name is b. Sorry. Don't give blank space. By mistake, I have given blank space after putting commas. So because of that only I was getting error. So anyways, you give. See the impact of these rights. Since we have set RWX for user, so because of that only we are having RWX. We have given group members only the reading rights. So we are having R minus minus. That means there is no W permission, there is no X permission. And for others, we are setting RX. So here, if you look at this entry, so here we are having only R minus X. That means R and X permissions are there, but there is no W permission. So is it okay? So symbolically it is possible that we can make addition of different rights. So here when we say symbolically, that means we are treating the users as U, as G, as others, matlab O for others. And at the same time, the rights are also mentioned as R for reading, W for writing, and X for execution. Accordingly, we are having the octal notation. So that notation says that if we are having reading right, so that corresponds to 4. If we are having writing rights, so that corresponds to 2. And if we are having execution permission or execution rights, so that corresponds to 1. So if anybody is assigned 7 number, so 7 is possible only when with these 3 combinations, 7 is possible only when you add all these 3. So 4 plus 2, 6 and plus 1, 7. So that means if we are giving 7, so that means we are giving reading, writing and execution all rights. Okay. When we say that we are giving only 6, so 6 is possible only with 2 combinations, reading and writing, because 4 and plus 2, that is 6. So that means that fellow is having only reading and writing. And execution के लिए 1 है, so because of that only, if say we are giving only 3 number, so you know that 3 is possible with the combination of 2 and 1. That means only reading and execution rights, but there is no read permission. So because of that only it is happening that we are not having any number 3 assigned to any right. Otherwise it seems logical that execution is 1, write is 2. So why we are not keeping read is equal to 3? We are not keeping read is equal to 3 because that combination will not be unique, because if 3 we are assigning to read and 3 combination is also possible with the addition of 2 and 1. So that will be a little bit confusing. So because of that only for read 4 number is chosen and write 2 number is chosen and execution 1 is there. Now the question rises ki when we are using numerals for mentioning the rights, like reading, writing or execution, then how can we mention user, group or others as we do in case of symbolic representation as U, G or O? So that is done by position. So we are writing 755. So if I give 755 over B, so that means 7, the first position is meant for user, because if you look at the 9 rights in the group of 3, so the first 3 permissions are for user, the next 3 are for group and the last 3 are for others. So the same sequence we are following over here, that 7 is the first position. So that means reading, writing, execution, all rights we are giving to user. Then next is 5. So that combination says that you have to add 4 and 1. That means there will not be any writing permission because writing is dropped, and 4 plus 1 is 5. Similarly, at last position we are giving 5. So that is again 4 plus 1. So now if we are giving chmod 755 to B, so you look at this at the rights of B. So that is applicable over here, RWX, because 7 we have mentioned. Then R minus X, since you have mentioned 5. And similarly R minus X, since you have mentioned 5. So similarly, it is possible that instead of 5 we are say giving only 4 here. So only the last portion will change. Here instead of having X also we are having only reading rights. Okay. So we are having different positions like 754. See, there is I mean whatever way you feel convenient, that is okay for you. If you feel that writing U plus X or UG minus X or plus X or that kind of things are okay, then it is okay. But if you feel that these numerals are okay, then also it is okay. But in most of the cases, only numbers we are handling. So later on, we'll see that whenever any directory by default is created, because it is another thing that we are having chmod command, because of that only we can change the permission. But obviously, when first time we are allowed to log into the system and we have not created anything, or what will be the permission over my home directory. So there are some default values, they are applicable, but you can change those permissions by using umask command. So umask is, by the way, is set by the super user or administrator. So we will discuss it more in system administration part. But you understand that for any directory, the default rights are 777. So 777 means any directory is available to all the users, to the user, to all the group members, to all the others. But there is a umask permission, that is a global masking. So whatever bit we are having in the umask, that number will be deducted, okay, subtracted. So when we say we are having 002, see, we'll see the significance of this first 0 later on, because right now I'm telling you only the combination of 3. So you consider only the last 3, because the first is a specific bit that we'll discuss later on. That is a specific bit for doing some security related operations. But anyways, masking means we are switching off certain digits. So if 755 is there, 777 is there, and if you are subtracting 002 by default it is subtracted. Okay. So what will happen? Any directory by default, when it is created, by default it has the rights of 777. But since masking is set to 002, so that mask will be subtracted from 777. So that will become 775. So when it becomes 775, that means we'll be having RWX for user, RWX for others, sorry, group members, and only since 5 is there, so only R and X permission for the other members. Okay. So similarly, I mean, it's possible that we can change the mask, user mask, and accordingly we can change the permissions or default permissions. So you understand, whenever we are creating any directory, the default permissions which are allocated by the operating system to that directory is 777. But because of umask only, that becomes 775. And similarly, when we are creating any regular file, okay, so that file will be having the default permissions as 666. But this masking will be subtracted. So that will become 664. 6 we are getting only with the combination of 4 and 2. That means by default, for any regular file, we are having reading and writing permission, but no X permission. Okay. And similarly, when we say 664, that means reading, writing for user, reading, writing for group members, and only reading rights for others. So more about that, this we'll discuss later on. But whatever method suits you, accordingly you can choose either the symbolic representation you can take, or numeric representation you can take. So we'll see the discussion, which I deliberately skipped, because right now this is not our topic, that what is the significance of the first digit, or to that matter, here I am telling you only 3 combination of digits, but actually there is one more digit which is preceded with 7. So that of course has a different meaning. So what that digit carries as a meaning, that we'll discuss later on. So now since we have discussed cat command, we know that we have also discussed this greater than, double greater than. Now if I write, say if I write cat and greater than, and I'm writing 5.txt. Now, what is missing in this case? Usually what is happening when you write cat, after cat, you are writing some file name. And when you write greater than, so that means whatever file name you have mentioned after cat, you are redirecting the content of that file to a other place, and that place you mention after greater than sign. But here surprisingly what is missing, because before greater than I have not written any file name. So obviously the question arises, what do we wish to transfer to 5.txt, because there is no mention of file name after cat command. Okay. So when this file name is missing, so surprisingly this cat is not counted as a wrong command. Rather the cursor is coming to the next line, and then you can type something. I mean, I can type MMUT, I can type Gorakhpur, I can type ITCA, and after that I am giving Control D. Now once again I have got the prompt. Actually, when you don't mention any file name after cat, by default it assumes that this file is an input file. And I mean, those who are aware of the C language very well, so they must be knowing that if frequently we are making use of scanf, so it is happening that if 4 or 5 frequent occurrences of scanf is found in any program and we execute any program, we execute that program, so it starts skipping some of the scanf statements. Like it is usually happening when the teacher is asking you or teaching you the struct kind of structure and asking you to write a program to process the result of your class. So we know that for every student, we are supposed to input his name, we are supposed to input his roll number, and then marks is secured in 4 or 5 subjects which that fellow might have studied in a particular semester. So that we used to mention. So I mean, multiple inputs we are taking when we are executing that program. So it is happening that when you run this kind of program, it may happen that the first field which you are reading is suppose name, and the next field which suppose you wish to read is roll number. But surprisingly it is happening, it is asking you to enter the name, and soon after that it is directly jumping to enter the first marks, not prompting you to enter the roll number. So in that case, what is happening? It is normally said that you have to flesh out the keyboard buffer, because normally it is happening that by default it assumes that roll number already you have entered, because the keyboard buffer is full. So it assumes that you have pressed enter key, though you have not. So in that case, what we do is, as a remedial action, that roll number which is skipped to be taken from user, before that scanf we are using fflush, and within bracket we are writing std in. That means we are flushing out the buffer of keyboard. So why do we use std in? Std in is a file handler which corresponds to your keyboard. That means any operation that you carry out over std in, that will be actually carried out over keyboard. Similarly, std out is a file handler meant for key monitor. So any operation that you do on std out, that means that is performed on monitor. So accordingly, it is happening in Linux case also. When file name is missing after cat command, that indicates it's a keyboard, and that means it's an input file. So that input file is to be entered from input device. So that is why it is happening that cat is finding that after before greater than sign, since you have not mentioned any file name, so it assumes that it's an input file. So it goes to take the content of input file. And where does it take the content? It takes contents from keyboard. So that means now, because of that only, it lets me it is giving me an opportunity to type MMUT and then Gorakhpur and then ITCA, and at some point of time you need to convey this message back to cat that your input file is over. So that you do with the help of pressing Control D. So when you give Control D signal, that means it's an end of file signal. So by that way you are telling to cat that the input file is complete. Now cat is resuming its usual operation, and what usual operation is, had we given a file name after cat, it might have transferred those contents to 5.txt. So similarly, since we have missed that file name, so it assumes that that is the input file. So when you end the input file, now it has cat and then input file greater than 5.txt. So it transfers those contents to 5.txt file. So now I can see the content of cat 5.txt. Look, I have got MUT Gorakhpur ITCA. That means we have actually transferred input file contents to 5.txt, but it appears as if we got success in creating a new file 5.txt by just making use of cat greater than sign. So this sometimes many people are referring that if you have to create a very small file, you can use cat even to create that file. So when we write cat greater than and 5.txt, it almost behaves like as if it is letting us to type any file. But mind it, it's not an editor, because when you write cat greater than and file name and it is letting you to input the content from keyboard, say after entering MUT Gorakhpur, and when I reached the third line where I typed ITCA, suddenly I realized that I did mistake in typing MUT, and instead of M I have typed only M. So now I should go back to make modification in the first line, but that will not be allowed. Reason being, it's not an editor, so it is never letting you to move the cursor here and there. The only thing is it is another thing that you are simply exploiting this feature of cat to create very small file, but it's not an editor. It is still is a concatenation command that is primarily meant for displaying or concatenating content of different files. Okay. But when we do not give any argument as a file name after cat command, it assumes that it's an input file. So because of that only, it gives you an opportunity to give a to type an input file. So you keep typing the content, and at some point of time, once you feel that the contents are over and now the input file is complete, so you have to give Control D. You have to press Control D. So when you press Control D, it's an end of file signal. That means now whatever you have typed before Control D, that has been taken as input file. So now cat is doing its usual operation and transferring those contents to a next file which you have mentioned as 5.txt. So now when we later on check 5.txt, we are having the same content that we typed as part of input file. So I suppose it's clear that for creation of very small file, we can make use of cat command. But again, I'm telling you, it's not an editor. It's a special use of cat command that helps you to create very small file of 3 or 4 lines, because more than that we are not doing with cat, because it's not an editor. So because of that only, it's possible that when you are typing multiple lines, the chances of having error is more. So in that case, suddenly you realize that you have committed mistake in line number 1 and you are right now at line number 10. So you don't have option of moving to line number 1 and make the correction. But anyways, it can be used to create very small file, but in a special way. Similarly, in case of DOS, we are having a copycon command. Okay, copycon command is a special use of copy command, because what we are doing in case of DOS, the syntax says that you have to mention copy and then source file, and then you have to mention target file. So that means you are copying the content of source file to target file. Similarly, when we use copycon and then we are using target, so obviously question rises ki where is source file whose contents are to be transferred to target. So actually con stands for console, that is again a input. So that means when you type this copycon and some file name and you press enter, so cursor is coming to the next line, and again it behaves in the same way as we have done in case of cat. And now you can type some contents. This you can practice in Windows in the command mode. And once your file typing is over and you wish that now you have to send end of file signal, you press Control Z. So mind it, Control Z basically we are using as a end of file signal in case of Windows or DOS. But in case of Unix or Linux, it is control and small d. Okay, Control D, and that is Control Z. And there is no mention of there is no need to mention small z or capital Z, because you know that Windows and DOS, they are not case sensitive operating systems. So there both are okay when you type small z or capital Z. Okay. So when you write copycon and target file, again because of con only or console only, so that is again you can say ki we are using copycon as a inbuilt editor, but again it is not an editor. It's a special use of copy command which lets you to create very small file, but again it's not an editor, because similar thing is happening here too, that if we realize that there is some mistake in line number 1 and we are right now at line number 5, we don't have the option of moving back to line number 1 and make the correction. Okay. So I suppose now it's clear. By the way, we'll discuss CP command. So we can write CP and we can write the file name like I can write 5.txt. and I can write 6.txt. So my source file is 5 and the second target file is 6.txt. You can get the content of 6.txt. So you see we are having a triple MUT Gorakhpur ITC. So by the way, if I looked at how many text files I have created so far, so I can simply write star.txt. You know that star is a wild character, and that is again a meta character having a special meaning. So it can simulate 0 or more occurrences of any character. So any name before .txt is there that is selected. So here a.txt, b.txt, c.txt, and to that matter 5.txt, 6.txt, all of them have been created. Now when we write move and we write 5.txt and we write 6.txt, so the difference is similar to cut copy paste. When we are cutting, we are deleting the content from the original position, and when we are pasting it to somewhere else, so there only we are adding those contents. So when we write mv, so it is move. So we are basically moving the content of 5.txt to 6.txt. Earlier we have copied the content of 5.txt to 6.txt. So there we have retained the original file 5.txt too. But here when we write mv 5.txt 6.txt, that means we are moving only the content of 5.txt to 6.txt, and 5.txt will be no more after this point. So now if I look at the contents, so here we don't have 5.txt, we are having only 6.txt, and again 6.txt is having the same contents similar to what we had in 5.txt. In order to delete any regular file, we can make use of rm. So if I write rm6.txt, that means I wish to delete this file 6.txt. So this has been deleted, and now it is not there. And if I wish to make sure before deletion that indeed I wish to delete this file, so in case of this command, it is prompting you to enter the consent. Like you are writing rm minus I stands for interactive. So this removal is interactive, and it is a you can say a precaution, because when you make use of minus I, it gives you the option of removing yes or no. If you give the consent in the form of yes, then only it is deleting this file B, otherwise it is not deleting. So if I give no, that means I'm not interested to delete this file, so my file will be retained. But if I repeat the same command once again, and here if I say yes, so now this file has been deleted. So it's not existing. We are left with only A, C, and D3 is 3 files. So we have seen the use of and similarly, if you wish to delete any directory, so we can make use of rm, and then we can make use of rmdir, and then we can mention the directory name. But again, mind it, if I delete rmdir b, this directory will not be deleted. Reason being, this directory is not empty. So it's a prerequisite that the directory which you wish to delete should be empty. Okay. So because of that only, either you have to vacate the content from rmdir from the B subdirectory, and then only you come out of B and then you execute rmdir. Eventually, suppose if I am moving into B and there I am creating a directory, say mkdir, and say the directory name is exp. So there is nothing that we have typed inside this exp. So if I type exp, I have not found anything inside the exp. So here I can execute rmdir. I can write rmdir and exp. So now this is deleted because there is no content inside the exp. Similarly, rm can, which is basically meant for removing any regular file, can also be used for directory, and there you have to use a switch called -r. That stands for recursively. So if we write rm and then -r and we give the directory name, that means from that point onwards everything will be deleted, and you don't need to vacate the B. Actually, you are mentioning B as a root, and from there onwards whatever tree structure has been created, the entire tree structure will be deleted including B. So that way you can do without even deleting, because many times it is possible that you are having a directory and inside that directory you have created so much other directories and files and inside the internal directory you might have created some other directories too. So in that case, if you have to delete the directory called B, so obviously vacating that B itself is a tedious job. So if you are sure that from this point onwards every tree structure, the entire tree structure is to be deleted, I mean whatever directory is the root of that subtree which you wish to delete, so you have to simply out of that root from where that subtree is starting, and there you can mention rm minus r and then you mention that directory name, so that entire tree structure will be deleted from that point onwards. So that can also be done. Then there are some other commands like head. So if I look at the content of the file called d.txt, sorry, I'm inside. Okay, this file is, let us see what is there inside. So we are having first, 4, second and third. So say if I am watching the content of 4.txt, so I'm having these contents. When we write head command, that means we wish to see the first 10 lines of that file that we give after head command. The first 10 lines from the header side, I mean from the top side. So you look at this cat4.txt. Here we are having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the blank line is 10. So obviously the entire file will be displayed on screen. So when we write head 4.txt, we get the entire contents. We also have the option of mentioning the lesser number of lines or more number of lines just instead of 10. So I can write minus n, and then after that, suppose I am giving 2. So I'm interested to know only the first 2 lines. See, the whatever number you are mentioning after minus n, those number of lines must be counted from the top. So because of that, only the first 2 lines are displayed on the screen with head minus n to 4.txt. That means we are interested to know only the first 2 lines. Similarly, if I give first 4, so you see that we have got 4 lines on the screen. Opposite to this command is tail command. When you write tail4.txt, again 10 lines, but right from the tail side. That means from the bottom side the counting will start. So if you are having 15 lines in any file, the last 10 lines will be displayed on the screen. Eventually in 4.txt we are having merely 10 lines. So because of that only when I write, we don't realize the difference between tail and head, because in both the cases the 10 limit is set. So because of that only the entire contents are shown on the screen in both the cases. But here too you can mention the lesser number of lines. So I can do minus n and then suppose 2 only. When I say 2, that means we have to display only 2 lines from the bottom side. That means last 2 lines. I mind it in the previous contents of 4.txt, the last line is a blank line. So when I press enter, I am getting 2 lines. One which is not apparent over here is actually a blank line, and then before that we are having Linux practice session. So is it okay that we can make use of head and we can make use of tail command to display by default the 10 lines in both the cases, but you also have the option of changing that limit of 10 to any number by just writing minus n option. Another additional option which is not there actually in head, but it is there in case of tail, is mentioning any number with plus. When I write plus 2 and then I write 4.txt, that means I am interested to display the 10 lines, which is the default limit, but this plus 2 specifies that line number 2 onwards. So if you look at the content that I have highlighted, so what is there here? ITRC, the resource center, is the first line. But when I write here minus n plus 2, so that plus 2 indicates that the display should start from second line onwards. So second line is at MMUT. First line is skipped. And since we have not mentioned any limit, so default limit is 10. So we are interested to display the 10 lines, okay, but starting from second line. So Actually, it is not letting you to define the maximum number of the limit for maximum number of lines. So I'm just making a correction that when you write tail minus n plus 2, that means the display starts from second line, but whatever number of lines are left in code.txt, maybe more than 10, they'll be displayed on screen. All the lines will be displayed on screen. So this command is basically exploited when somebody is asking you to write a program where you have to specify a range. That means you wish that only line number 3 to 6 only should be displayed on screen or should be taken up for doing any operation. So obviously the selection of line number 2 to line number 6 can be made by just making the use of head and tail both in combination. So since we have to start from second line and we have to move up to say we are interested from second to 5. That means 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 4 lines we are interested to display on screen. Okay. And before 2, 1 was there. So if we are making use of head command and if I write head and then write minus n and then if I write 5, that means I'm interested to display only 5 lines. And then I'm making use of pipeline symbol. I'm combining it and then I'm writing tail. And here again I'm writing minus n, but this time I'm writing plus say 3 and then again 4.txt. Not 4.txt because input we have got from the previous command. So you make the comparison. Comparison should be made with this one, जो upper contents हैं, जो original contents हैं इस file की. So what first command head minus n 5 is displaying? It is selecting the first 5 lines. So when we say the first 5 lines, that means we have to start from here 2, 3, 4 and 5. Linux class in ITCA up to Linux class in ITCA. Okay. So that will be selected. But after that we are writing tail minus n plus 3. Now this tail minus n plus 3 should apply over where? It should apply okay, over the contents. This one whatever I have highlighted previously because that was the outcome of head command. Okay, so ITRC the resource center was the first line and the 5th line was Linux class in ITCA. But when we write tail minus n plus 3, that means we have to start from the 3rd line. Okay. So the 3rd line says Madan Mohan Malviya because ITRC is a resource center at MMUT. These are the 2 lines and the 3rd line is Madan Mohan Malviya. So it starts at the display from there and goes up to the last content which it has got from the previous command, and the previous command says displayed only 5 lines. So we are getting only 3 lines, 3, 4 and 5. So if somebody is asking you to make a selection of from 3 to 5, see when we make use of a standalone way head command, so that it starts always from top. When we are asked to display the use the tail command to display, it is by default it starts from bottom side. But since it is having an additional facility of writing plus number, so that means it can also start from the top, but from that particular line onwards. When we write plus 3, that means 3rd line onwards. So we are exploiting this feature, and I mean none of them is actually executed in the way to select a particular range of lines from a file which is having total 50 lines. So there you have to execute both the commands in combination. So logically you have to combine them. And since I was interested to display only the line number 3, 4 and 5. So in a standalone way, head cannot be used for making this selection. Neither tail can be used for making this selection, because if we write tail minus n plus 3, that means it is starting from line number 3, but not stopping at line number 5. Rather, if 50 lines are there, so from line number 3 onwards, it is displaying the entire content of that file. And neither we are having the option of specifying the last limit up to which tail command has to display. So that's why it is possible that we are making use of head and tail both to make the selection of a particular range of files. See, this is very important concept. It may not be looking very attractive right now, but when you are writing any shell program and there suppose you are asked to write a program where you have to count the occurrence of malware in any file between line number 3 to line number 10. So there it matters a lot. Selection of malware word, we'll see later on which command we can use for counting the occurrences of malware. But before that, it becomes important that how can we make the selection of those lines starting from line number 3 to line number 10. So obviously that is possible only because of making combination of this type, which I just explained to you, that we can make head and tail in combination to make the selection of a particular range of lines. So please do remember it, because we must be using it in the shell programming. So we are having head, we are having tail. So for whatever selections we are making use of head, or we are making use of tail, we are always treating the lines or selecting the lines horizontally. But later on, we'll discuss the command called cut and paste, which can make the content selection vertically. I mean, till now we are interested only to cut the contents from line number 3 to line number 5. We are not bothering about the vertical, cutting. Okay, but it may be possible that you are having a relational database type of file where you are having 3 or 4 fields, and the multiple fields are vertically arranged. The first field is say roll number, the second is name, the third is age, and say somebody is asking you to display only age, so you have to cut only that field vertically from the entire file. So that kind of operation we can make with the help of cut. And similarly, it is possible that you are having two different files where you are having this kind of column wise arrangement, and in one file you are having head number of departments written in the third column, and in the second file you are having some number of cities, and somebody is saying that you have to cut these two columns from two different files and you have to paste them vertically. So if somebody is asking you to do that operation, so obviously we have to make use of paste. So for vertical cutting and vertical pasting, we are having these two commands. For horizontal cutting and pasting, we are making use of head and tail. So more about this we'll learn in the next lecture. So I am just handing my lecture here only. So thank you. For any discussion or any query, either you can post that query to me so that I can answer those queries, or otherwise in the next session also you can ask if you go through the lecture and if you realize that there is something which you do not understand, so that you can